How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another video. Now today I'm going to be talking about liquidity. Now I haven't done a video on liquidity yet, I believe, so I'm just going to be talking to you about certain types of liquidity, what ones to look for, and how I would use them. I don't use much of them, but I do think it's good to be aware of it, but you don't necessarily have to trade it, and essentially whatever strategy you trade is going to be using liquidity anyway, so like it's not, a huge deal. So I'm going to be talking through the different types of liquidity that I know and see and use, that you might be able to put into your trading too and use in the future. So let's jump onto the charts now, and I will show you exactly what I'm looking for. And as I said, you won't really need to know any other liquidity after this video. All right, so we're gonna look at GU because that's just what I trade the most, but this kind of really applies to any pair. And the first form of liquidity I'm going to be talking to you about is just the most basic form, which is liquidity above highs and lows. So if we have an uptrend like so, you're going to have sellers leaving liquidity at the top and buyers leaving liquidity at the bottom. And essentially all the market is doing is, in an uptrend, building up sellers, buyers, sellers, buyers, sellers, buyers, and using the sellers liquidity to push price to the upside and then build up more falls, because obviously there's people selling. Then it uses that sell strength here to drive price through, uses that sell strength to drive price through. So that's like the basis of an uptrend, and it's the exact same when price then decides to reverse. Now, again, it's building up sellers and buyers, but this time is using the buyers liquidity to drive price through, which is obviously the opposite here. But also what's happening is all the previous orders that were used to push price through these sellers now gets collected every time a low gets taken, right? That is essentially how the market moves. If you look in real time, you have sellers, sellers, buyers, 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 sellers, sellers, buyers, sellers, and then we start getting buyers, sellers, sellers, buyers, sellers, and then more sellers down here. And it's one big cycle because you use the buyers' money over here to push price to the upside, taking out the sellers here, and then they bring the market back down to collect the orders here, whilst using the buyer liquidity now to collect. But then what happens? Well, there's seller liquidity at all of these highs that we have yet to come and get, which is why price will now come and take all of these. So that is like, just, it's very simply put how the market moves and the most basic form of liquidity. So you can know that under each high and low there is liquidity because the market needs to move, right? The next type of liquidity that then kind of plays into is trendline liquidity, right? So for example, you have buyers, buying up this trend line here, for example, with the 3 touches, and then you get the break and retest that, very basic retail trading uses, comes down and it takes out all the buyer liquidity that were holding these buys. Now, this gets put into tons of different types of liquidity. Some people call it internal and external liquidity, where you've got this is your internal because it's inside the the current price, and this would be your external liquidity here. So it just comes and goes like as and when. So internal, and then this becomes your external down here, and this is obviously then your internal, and then you get your external. And anyway, so but essentially all it is just trend lines or trendline liquidity. So yeah, that's the next bit that I wanted you to be aware of: trendline liquidity. The next thing you want to look out for is double tops and double bottoms. Now, some people like to use bodies, some people like to use wicks. It doesn't really matter, but it's essentially where price comes and taps an area again. So for example, like this is a double bottom here because you've got price get buyers in here. Obviously we're in an uptrend anyway. Buyers come in, comes back into this area of, well, if I draw it like a proper new retail trader drawing their support resistance, they have their support here, and it comes in again. Guess what? Builds up more buyers, and you can expect at some point price to come back down and take these double bottoms. Same with double tops. If I just find a quick example, so you can kind of see again here where it's like with a double top where you have an area of price and people have sold from it like so. It's obviously sold off. Then retail wait for or we all are retail by the way, but you know, very basic traders wait for a retest and then call this resistance. So guess what? They sell again, and it comes and takes liquidity. So it's the same sort of thing, just reverses the double top and the double bottom. And you just want to be careful of it. Again, like you don't really want to be buying above a double bottom because it could come and then take it. So for example, you might have something like this, and you don't want to, like, it's riskier buying here because price might want to come and take these double bottoms. And it's the exact same with sells, where you have not like that, you have it like this, and then you try and sell like here, and it just comes through to take the double top. So same sort of concept, but you just want to be careful of that so that it doesn't catch you out. Now, another form of liquidity that I like to use or be aware of is just sort of like consolidation areas. So for example, this area here, if I draw a line like this and we go, actually it'll be easy to see in replay. So if I just go like this, there we go, draw that, and then you can have two lines. You have that line, or you could use this sort of area here. It doesn't really matter, but you can see how in this area you're going to have people buying and people, you know, selling up here because it's bouncing in this channel. Now this is very you know, easy to manipulate, and normally will happen in sort of Asia session for GU before the real move in London. But you can see how price starts tapping or whatever, comes into the buy zone where more buyers expect, and then it just shoots through it and takes all the buyers out. So again, it's another form of liquidity that you need to be aware of, and you really don't want to get caught out by it. But there's loads of different types of liquidity, loads of different names for liquidity. And, you know, my biggest sort of thing is just don't be scared of it. Liquidity is really simple when you make it so. And you just have to be aware of it. You don't have to necessarily trade it. You know, there are other forms of liquidity with wicks and fake outs and, you know, building up before buying, because on every time frame, there's going to be liquidity. For example, if we look at this area here on a lower time frame, this would have been a downtrend or sells. If I drop to like the 5 minute maybe, or the 1 minute, you can see it on the 5 minute as well, but on the 1 minute as well, there you go. You can see that we're gonna have sellers here, here, like everywhere. And you can see builds up all these sellers on a lower time frame, before blowing straight through it and taking them out. And obviously that's why you need to be aware of the higher time frame, but hopefully this is a good introduction to it. But yeah, this won't be my only video on liquidity. I'm going to do more on them if you want me to. So if you do, you know, find this useful, please let me know. Likewise, if you have any questions, also let me know. I'm sure that stuff is very basic for you. But there are some other stuff that, as I said, we can use, or I can make a video on. If you would like that, just drop it in the comments. it's funny actually, as I was saying this, I've just looked at GU and you can see how it's now coming and taking out the highs that I was just mentioning earlier, because of the amount of sellers that will be under it, or over it, sorry. But either way, yeah, I hope you found that useful, and I will see you in the next one.